I call to order the March 7th, 2022 meeting of the City of Danville Planning Commission. We welcome everyone to this meeting. The Planning Commission is an advisory board to the Danville City Council and is comprised of members who serve on a voluntary basis. Today we have 3 items on the agenda to consider, for which there will be a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against an agenda item may do so during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commission members may have questions for staff and for those who have spoken for or against any requested change. The Planning Commission will review all cases relative to the City Code and make recommendations to forward to City Council. Council will consider these cases at their April 5th meeting. Ms. Jones, call the roll, please.
Ms. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Dotson? Mr. Garrison?
Here.
Mr. Bolton? Mr. Patrick?
Here.
And Mr. Khan?
Here.
Before I start the cases for today and the public hearing, I think all of you can hear us when we speak, even those of you in the back corners of the room. Am I correct that you can hear us back there? No problems. Okay, thank you. One of the things that we have found is that when people come to the microphone up here and speak, they are speaking to us, and sometimes it is difficult for you to hear in the back. So what I will try to do is, after each person speaks, I will try to summarize very quickly what they said, the points that they made. The other thing is, during public hearings, we have a 10-minute limit for the applicant to speak. Any person speaking for or against that has 3 minutes, and then the applicant has another 5 minutes after everyone else is finished. There are lights on the speaker stand there. Once you have given your name and address, then Ms. Jones will start that countdown clock. When I think the yellow button is working now. We don't know. It should turn yellow when you have 1 minute left, and when it turns red, then your time is up. Our first item today is special use permit application PZ 22-30, filed by Jeremy Nichols, Old Oak LLC, on behalf of Benton Cruz Property LLC, requesting a special use permit for a contractor's office, shops, and storage yard according to Article 3-0-C-5 of the Danville Zoning Ordinance at 823 Industrial Avenue, Parcel 24094. The applicant proposes a contractor's office and workshop. May I have a staff report, please, sir?
Thank you, Chair Garrison. The city may allow a contractor's office in the light economic development industrial district with a special use permit. If approved, the special use permit is in harmony with LEDI district's regulations, such as light industrial economic development activities within a master planned and clustered setting. This district may be applied to economic development establishments in the city, as well as to existing light industry. This application would also meet the general special use permit review standards contained in Article 6B of the zoning ordinance. The Planning Division recommends approving this application as proposed, and that the Planning Commission endorse special use permit application PZ 2230 to City Council for approval without conditions.
Thank you, sir. Is there a representative here for either Benton Cruz Property or Old Oak LLC? Come forward, please, sir. Please state your name and address, and then you have 10 minutes to explain your request.
My name is Jeremy Nichols. My address is 127 Southland Court, Danville, Virginia 24541. And I purchased the property in February, and am looking to move my cabinetry shop there and fix the office up front as a showroom. That's about it.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Do any of you have questions? Any commissioners? No questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone to speak in favor or in opposition to this first request? Close the public hearing. Any questions of staff? Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve special use permit application PZ 3-0 as submitted.
Second? Mr. Khan, second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson? Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Khan? And Mr. Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, the second item, special use permit application PLSUP 2021-422, filed by Keith Walden on behalf of CWC Holdings LLC. I might also add that Empire Rentals LLC is also a part of this application. And the Waltons, Mr. and Ms. Walton, also own one of the properties, not the holding company. Request a special use permit for a planned unit development in accordance with Article 17 of the Danville zoning ordinance, including parcels, and I have these in big numbers so I can read them, 20596, 20597, 25672, 22841, 22958, 25085, 25226, 22099, 25069, 25070, 25074, 20420, 20421, 20422, 25542, 25073, 23886, 23561, 23563, 22924, 24974, 21173, 20425, 24984, 25098, 22104, 22103, 22513, 24649, 24358, 21117, 24359, 25088, 20424, 25087, 20418, 25086, 25090, and 25089. The proposed plan unit development consolidates the subject parcels into 6-building apartment complex development with additional resident amenities. Could we have staff report, please, sir?
Thank you, Chair Garrison. As you mentioned, this PUD consolidates the subject parcels into a 6-building apartment complex with additional resident amenities. The proposed density for this development is about 25 units per acre. Nearby apartments include 125 Mount Vernon Avenue, which is 6 units on 0.17 acres for a density of 35 units per acre. 111 Marshall Terrace of 8 units on 0.19 acres for 40 units per acre. Lady Astor Apartments, 25 units on about 1.3 acres for 19 units per acre. 126 Westmoreland Court, 12 units on 0.33 acres for 40 units per acre. And 134 Westmoreland Court, 17 units on 0.4 acres at 41 units per acre. I'd also like to add that the last 3 apartment developments I call out are all apartment complexes that are at the rear of streets that exit and enter off of West Main adjacent to Central Boulevard. And all 3 of those complexes back up to Central Boulevard. So they buffer Central Boulevard from the neighborhoods and vice versa, similar to what this proposal will do. The city may allow a planned unit development in any zoning district with a special use permit. The neighboring adjacent properties are residential. If granted, this proposed special use permit is in harmony with the comprehensive plan's goals, policies, and objectives, including our adopted comprehensive plan's housing and neighborhood goal is to promote opportunities for a wide variety of housing types in the city through adaptive reuse, redevelopment, and new development within established neighborhoods and districts, and through sustainable and well-planned new development, including mixed-use development on vacant land with an emphasis on providing safe, sanitary, and affordable homes for low to moderate income residents as well as residents with higher incomes. 2 of the objectives under that broad goal are to support and promote the creation of high-quality infill housing throughout the city, and to adopt and implement sustainable growth development policies and ordinances that require developers to fund public facilities sufficiently adequate to serve the needs of new development, except where incentives are warranted in keeping with established economic development goals and policies. Danville City Code allows City Council to apply any conditions necessary to assure that the proposed use will conform to zoning ordinance requirements. The Planning Division recommends approving this application as proposed and that the Planning Commission endorse special use permit PLSUP 2021-422 for City Council approval with the following conditions. That permitted uses at the development are residential, that at least 35% of the building exteriors will be masonry, the buildings will not use vinyl siding on exterior vertical fascia, the development will have sidewalk connectivity to West Main Street, the developer will complete a traffic impact analysis in consultation with the city and implement the recommendations, the development will not exceed 25 dwelling units per acre, the development must meet all ingress and egress requirements of the building and fire codes. The development includes amenities for residents, including a clubhouse and a swimming pool. The development will maintain landscape buffers compliant with Article 16 of the zoning ordinance. And that the developer executes and records a development agreement with the city acknowledging these conditions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. I open the public hearing. I believe, Mr. Gould, you're going to speak for the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. I'm Stephen Gould with Sova Legal on behalf of the applicants. Just as an initial matter, Mr. Chairman, I do want to clarify the parcels that are the subject of the application. On the initial list, parcel 22958 was listed. That should have been 24958, and 25363 was mentioned, and the 3 and the 5 were transposed there. It should be 23563. But the goal here is to have even the spaces that are omitted on the map in front of you. All of that acreage, totaling about 6.5 acres plus a little bit more, would be included within this application. This application, members, is submitted on behalf of 3 separate property owners, as the chairman mentioned, all with long-standing connections to Danville. CWC Holdings, owned by the Walden family, Mr. and Mrs. Walden, who own an individual parcel, and Empire Holdings, which is owned by Jay Suthar. The developers are supported by local and regional team members, several of whom are here today. Ryan Gatewood and Mark Johnson with LED Professionals, and Jeff Bond of Silex Architecture. And we are pleased to be with you today because we believe we have an exciting picture to paint for you. It is a picture of redevelopment, of rebirth, of returning a corridor within our city to productive use at a time when Danville has an urgent need for quality housing. And it is a project spearheaded by a local family that wants to be part of the solution to the problem facing us. Our community is poised for the kind of growth that we have not seen in generations, but that growth requires housing, particularly housing that is within the city limits of Danville. Ask any of our major employers, Averett, Sova, Danville Public Schools, and the list goes on, and they will share with you how the lack of good quality available housing options is already an impediment to their efforts to be competitive in today's market. The proposal before you today represents a large step toward removing that impediment before it gets in the way of some of the additional new opportunities that we all anticipate, that we all hope are right around the corner for Danville. I want to walk you through the details of this project. First, though, I think it's important to look at the land in question. Among them, the applicants, as I mentioned, have assembled more than 6.5 acres on Stewart Street. And most of you are likely familiar with this portion of Stewart Street as it exists now. Largely vacant and unimproved, and as a result featuring city-posted signs that remind passerbys not to dump on the land. You may also be familiar with the prior incarnation of Stewart Street, a true blight in our city that the current owners have worked for years to alleviate. And that brings us to the proposal before you today, which, if approved, will see $20 million and likely more invested in redeveloping Stewart Street. It is a proposal that will provide thoughtful, responsible infill development, make a significant contribution to the city's tax base, and meet the very real need that exists for quality housing in our community. As envisioned, the project will consist of 6 separate 3-story apartment buildings featuring a total of 162 units, most of those being 1 or 2 bedroom units. It will feature an attractive design that's still being developed and is not yet in final form, that represents a blend of newer and more traditional styles. What was provided with our application previously was just a placeholder, and the team's emphasis going forward is on achieving a look that complements the neighborhood. The project will offer amenities both inside and outside the units that today's professionals are demanding, things like stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, other high-quality finishes, along with the clubhouse, pool, and professional landscaping that you've heard about. Importantly, it will provide desirable pedestrian access to West Main Street. That will allow residents the easy opportunity to walk to work at Sova or Averett, to dine at Crema and Vine or King Crop, to access everything that Blue Park has to offer. In addition, the project manages simultaneously to provide needed density and exceed the city's expectations for both open space and resident parking within the development. This is a thoughtful approach, and it's one that does not simply try to build on every available bit of land that the applicants own. And we would submit to you this thoughtfulness has extended to the applicants' desire to engage with their neighbors. On February 10th, they hosted a community meeting at Crema and Vine, mailing postcards to everyone who would receive notice of this rezoning request. Residents had the opportunity to see a site plan at that event and a potential building design, and to engage with the owners, with the project engineer and architect on technical issues. It was a well-attended event. We were pleased to have some great discussion, and it helped to confirm to us before this application was submitted that the proposal was on point. Last week, we unfortunately learned that a number of neighbors indicated that they had not received the postcard inviting them to the original event. So, knowing that, CWC and the Waldens responded quickly and hosted a second community event this past Saturday. And we had invitations hand-delivered to folks that we were aware of that had not received the invitation, or that's what they conveyed to us. And this invitation not only included details on the second community meeting, it also included a link to a website, stewartstreet24541.com, that allowed interested parties not just to learn more information about the project, but also to submit feedback via a web form if they weren't able to join us. The combination of the project's design and these sustained efforts to engage with neighbors demonstrates what we believe is a good faith, thoughtful approach to moving forward into this redevelopment. We also recognize and appreciate several of the concerns that some have raised, including flooding that has occurred in the past between Stewart and Montague, and also whether this design is going to allow appropriate access for first responders. You'll see on the site plan that was included as Exhibit C with our application the creation of a stormwater pond. And the combination of this stormwater pond, the considerable new landscaping that will be part of this project, and the gutters that will be included on the apartment buildings, this combination will greatly improve the drainage concerns that currently exist. And while there's no guarantee that the water issues will be entirely mitigated, there can be no doubt that this development and what it has planned will move the needle in the right direction and do so in a substantial way. I've also confirmed with our engineering team that the site plan has been designed to ensure that first responders have appropriate access to and appropriate movement within the community. Now, should the city identify any impediments to first responder access, we're committed to addressing those. Safety is always a paramount concern. We also understand and respect that the density of the project is greater than what some would like to see. However, as the staff report that you heard indicated, the density is in line with other established apartment buildings that are geographically proximate to this proposal. Plus, given our community's need for housing, and with the annexation moratorium that continues for decades on end, the need for us to look for infill development opportunities within the city is crucial, and we offer that there's no better or more efficient way to use this acreage than what we've proposed. And this design and approach also are absolutely in line with the goals laid out in the comprehensive plan for the city, which staff recommendations and staff report touched on. We also accept the condition recommended by staff that we have a traffic impact analysis performed and join the city in implementing the changes recommended as part of that. Now, we believe, based on an earlier traffic assessment done by the city, the fact that many residents, we believe, will walk to and from from their housing to work along West Main, and our calculation that used the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip calculator, which is available, that this project is not going to have the detrimental impact on traffic flow that some would suggest. Nevertheless, we welcome the study and being part of any solution that's necessary. Now, unfortunately, in addition to the items that I've mentioned, we've also seen concerns that are unfortunate and we would suggest represent kind of the usual boogeymen for projects of this sort. They either lack basis or we would contend misrepresent the details of the project. Some would argue that this $20 million project that has attractive amenities and market rate rent will lead to an increase in crime or will lead to a decrease in property values. Others believe that it's just a matter of time before this new, well-designed and built market rate project will lead to the same blighted conditions that Stewart Street was known for in the past, despite the fact that the Walden family has led the way in helping to alleviate these conditions, but somehow they would want us to believe that this family wants to recreate those conditions despite the tremendous investment that they're making here. And sadly, there are some of while many have engaged with us to discuss the project, there are others who have declined to do so and would rather just bring their concerns directly to you. And we hope that you will give those concerns the weight that we believe they're due. So in summary, our application demonstrates an approach that is thoughtful and thorough and that's calibrated to meet a very real need in the city. We're grateful for the support of owners of the two properties at the entrance to Stewart Street, Towns Funeral Home, and the Edmonds family, and David Fuqua of Towns Funeral Home would be here, but for a funeral that's occurring at Towns this afternoon. Also, John Kent, Sova Health's COO, hoped to be here today, but his schedule wouldn't allow. He asked me to express how important it is to Sova and to its resident physician program how important it is to have quality housing. We believe that everyone here today in support of the project and who offered written responses would agree with us that this is a project that adds to rather than subtracts from the community, and we're excited to move forward and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Mr. Gould at this point?
Gould, have you established what market rents will be, estimated market rents will be for these units?
I believe, and let me check with my folks, probably north of $1,000 a month is what would be expected. I think, unfortunately, given the condition of the world today, what we might expect would be market rent may be low in another year or so when this project might come online. But certainly whatever the higher end of local market rates will be at that time, that's what we believe the project will command.
Be competitive with what we see in the River District here?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
You mentioned first responders access.
Yes, sir.
Is the entrance from Watson going to be closed, or will that always be open? Wouldn't that be access to responders, or is there going to be a cul-de-sac, or what's the intent there?
So it is envisioned to be a cul-de-sac, Mr. Bolton, but in the event that in working with city staff, if there's a need to have some limited access there for first responders, that's certainly something that we would support doing. It's just whatever the first responders tell us they need, we'll be glad to make happen. So there are 1.4 spaces per unit. So you're looking at roughly, and math's escaping me, in the 300 ballpark, I believe. 231. I'm sorry, 231. There's a reason I don't do math for a living. So 231. She knows well, unfortunately. So 231. So, but again, it's 1.4 spaces per unit. So 162 times 1.4, which exceeds the one space per residential dwelling unit that the city requires.
Any other questions?
With that, you know that, I mean, a lot of folks these days have two cars. When you're talking about 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a 2-bedroom apartment might have 2 people with 2 cars. So how do you manage to or plan to deal with that?
So I'd say it's a couple of things. One, we're working from a baseline of 1 space per unit that the city has established. So that's our baseline. We've exceeded that by 40%. Also, when you look at the kind of target market for a property like this, you're looking at a lot of professionals, particularly younger professionals, who place a premium on being close to work, being close to places that they can dine and shop, having that pedestrian access to West Main and being able to quickly walk to Sova, to Averett, to other places, that's something we believe is going to limit the number of vehicle trips. We also use the calculation that I mentioned earlier, and let me make sure I don't get the name of this wrong. But I believe it was the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Their trip calculator showed us that the amount of trips coming in and out each day are not going to be what folks would expect for a development of this size. And so the combination of that along with the baseline that the city has established and the fact that this is intended to be a very pedestrian-friendly development with easy access to West Main Street, we believe that we're not only meeting, we're exceeding what would be expected, and that that parking will not be a tremendous issue.
Parking for electric vehicles?
I don't know that has been intended, or that's been discussed up to this point, but certainly something that we're happy to consider. I know that's, particularly with new developments, that's something that you're starting to see, and it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Mr. Gould. For those of you who may have been keeping track by your watch, what he gets is 10 minutes uninterrupted, and what you will get is 3 minutes uninterrupted. And then if we have questions, that will be additional time that we will allow you to be at the podium. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item, either pro or con? There are about 5 hands up. Sir, you're the closest, so and you're already up.
Hi. Did I jump in front of somebody?
No, that's fine. Everyone will get their turn.
I'm Don Angston, University's Chief Financial and Operating Officer up at Averett University. As such, I'm keenly interested in recruiting and retaining faculty and staff, and our faculty and staff and hiring managers often talk about the need for quality, convenient, affordable housing. And I'm also keenly interested in economic development in Danville. And I think economic development is benefited by having affordable quality housing as well. So in that regard, on behalf of Dr. Franks and myself, I'd like to speak in favor of this project.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? None. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir?
I'm Louis Dumont. My wife and I have lived on 249 West Main Street for 34 years. We're excited.
Oh, I'm sorry,
We're excited to have 4 new sets of professionals that just moved in the neighborhood over the last couple of years. We're glad they didn't experience the crime and the knocking that we experienced at our house, the stealing of bikes and equipment. And also the knocking, you know what it's like? They get knocks at your door at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night from strangers begging for money. I mean, it's scary, and you don't know if they've got weapons or something. And I'd watch them leave, and I could tell they were coming from Stewart Street. And then Keith comes by, and he tears down all those houses. Ever since then, we haven't had those issues. We haven't had those problems. And then, then we're lucky. It's like the city won the lottery to get a casino coming here. And we've got, 1,000 jobs plus what the economic development team has been doing with Tyson coming and Walgreen and all that. That's another 600 jobs. I mean, 1,600. So the problem is, and I know that Toyota declined to come. They said it didn't have no housing. So I guess my question is, Danville needs the housing to address this. I've heard estimates to 3 to 4 to 5,000 units. This is only 162. I mean, geez, we need 10 to 20 to 30 Keith Walden projects going on. I've heard some say the apartments might not fit in with the surroundings. I think and they might be right, when you compare them to some of the apartments over on Westmoreland, all these are going to be luxury-looking apartments, much more upscale. I think anyone would be really proud to live in such a community. Companies will be paying attention to this first effort that you're doing here. And, a vote commitment will tell them that you're committed to supporting these companies, the building of the housing that they need. And I think a negative recommendation is going to tell them that this is not a friendly place to come for building the apartments and the housing that they may need. And I think they should do due diligence to consider their options. Investors will also be paying attention. How many people are lining up to build apartments? And I think if they see a positive, then they will probably line up to do the same. Negative recommendations will actually drive them off. So, it's kind of simple. It's like the movie. You build it, they will come. Or you can rephrase it another way. You could say, if they come and you don't build it, they will leave. We don't need a bunch of IKEAs coming here and then they don't get the proper support and they split. That'll cause more issues than we have now. So once again, I know we got people with a lot of different opinions here, but my main thing is we're all friends. I hope we stay that way, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. So you're in favor?
Hell yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Kelly, and I live at 230 Randolph Street. And I have no objection to the apartment complex, but before you approve it, I would ask you to please seriously take a look at the traffic impact, because the traffic dumping out onto West Main is straight across from the exit that runs up off Central Boulevard, so they're competing with that. And even if you put a light there, you're going to run into a problem with traffic. We have a real problem on Randolph right now with cut-through traffic, and I'm afraid that by this apartment complex being put there, you're going to increase the amount of cut-through traffic on Randolph and Lady Astor. And I would ask you to really take a look at the traffic impact study before you approve this. And I think your question, Ms. Evans, about 2 cars per family is a good question, because there's going to be far more than 1 car per apartment. And I think there's going to be far more traffic coming out of Stewart Street than is painted. And I appreciate the fact that everybody would like to walk to work, but not everybody is going to work at Averett or the hospital. You've got people that are going to be working downtown, are going to be working at other places. So there is going to be traffic coming out of there. It's not going to be people just taking scooters and walking out of there. So I would ask you to please seriously consider the traffic impact that this is going to have on West Main at that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Peter Wren, and I live at 234 West Main Street. Lou Ann Long and I bought a house there a couple of years ago. 3 minutes is not long, so I'll just hit the high points. I've been talking to neighbors the last couple of weeks, and our main concerns are population density. The GIS has the population in Danville right now for 893 people. Per square mile, these 300 or 400 people in this apartment complex will bring our neighborhood density equal to that of Los Angeles. And we think that will bring quality of life decrease, increased crime, and traffic congestion. We're also very concerned about the traffic. It's an emergency corridor right there, the Central Boulevard exit onto West Main. And according to figures obtained from the life-saving crew, there are upwards of 25 to 30 emergency vehicles a day that use that exit. This project is going to add an additional, 200-300 cars right at that choke point. A stoplight is not going to work. That's going to back the traffic all the way down into Central Boulevard. And when the casino opens, there's probably going to be more traffic. When there's a funeral at Towns, which happens with great frequency, you can add another 50 or so cars to this already very congested intersection. So we would like to see some kind of alternative, either flip it, make the entrance and exit on Watson Street, or come in off of Central Boulevard. And either one of those alternatives would avoid hundreds of additional vehicles a day clogging up the emergency corridor leading to the hospital. Another concern we have, a project of this scope will bring about a precipitous drop in property values on West Main and the surrounding streets. And we believe that this project puts literally millions of dollars in real estate investment at risk. I mean, I don't know who is going to want to buy a house next to a massive housing project such as this one proposed. And none of us are anti-growth at all. But those of us who live in that neighborhood, we have to live by not just the city codes, but also satisfy the laws of the Historic Society and the Architectural Review Board. And I mean, it's fine, it's worth it, but those of us in the community are willing to do our part and abide by these rules in order to maintain the beauty and character and integrity of our neighborhood. But West Main Street and Main Street are the very heart of this city, and we are fighting to save it, and we come here to ask you to help us fight it and preserve the historic aesthetic of West Main Street and find some working solution to especially this traffic problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. His comments were about traffic and about property value drops. If you have something new to say, we want to hear you, but there is no need for us to continue hearing about property value dropping and traffic problems. We have noted that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm up here to say something about the traffic, because I've counted that you will have to put a stoplight, and that means there will be 6 stoplights between Stewart and Creamer and Vine. Well, we know that's like this. There's stop, 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 stop. So I think that's of a big concern. I would say, as far as the aesthetics are concerned, that there was a successful development put into Holbrook Avenue, and so maybe in that way it would work. But I think the traffic is a big problem.
Okay, could you give us your name and address, please, ma'am?
Carol Ann Lawson, 811 Main Street.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Dunn, and I'm currently living at 1579 Mount Cross Road. I grew up on Holbrook Avenue, and then I live downtown, and I've just seen so many great things develop from when I was a child on Holbrook Avenue. First, we had to have a police station down the street. Now that's gone. You know, things are changing around this area. It's doing nothing but for the better. Creamer and Vine, so many people had a hard time and were giving so many people a problem about selling alcohol in the historical district. You ride by there now and you can't get a parking place because it's so crowded, which is a great thing to see in our town. You know, my grandmother bought a house on Wilton Avenue back in the 50s because people did only have 1 car per house back in those days. My grandfather was a captain in the Navy and an engineer at Dan River Mills. That's what brought him here. So, you know, she walked to the hospital every day. So what great things about the traffic and stuff. Now we don't have any power when I was currently coming down here, down through the stoplights, and you're not having a problem with traffic. It's not going to be a problem with traffic. I mean, you're seeing more and more people walking nowadays. Gasoline now, no one's brought that up, is $4 a gallon. Why would you not want to live a quarter of a mile from where you're working? You know, I'm having to drive 25 minutes to work now, and I'm a server at Olive Garden, and you just can't afford it. So for the young crowd like Avert and people like that, they need more housing. We definitely need it. And also, I don't really want to talk about the crime, but more than one of my classmates at Gibson and GW were shot on Stewart Street, and you're not having that problem anymore. So thank y'all for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, you've been trying to get up here for 30 times now, so you go next. Name and address, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to hear this proposal. My name is Julie Willoughby. I am the Chief Scientific Officer at CIRC, which CIRC Inc. is a startup company and is on a point of tremendous growth, and we have Danville to thank for that. I live on 219 Hawthorne Drive. I came to Danville 2.5 years ago in 2019. I had the good fortune to work throughout my career in many different diverse places, including Portland, Oregon, and Lake Oswego, a suburb outside of Portland that was had many privileges and influence to it. I lived in Cary, North Carolina. Again, had all the benefits to it. I grew up in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. Across the river from Cincinnati is an area called Over the Rhine. It's an area that I would go through in college on my way to University of Cincinnati to experience the nightlife of UC. And it was a part of town that you did not want to ever get stopped. That town now has a complete resurgence, and it's from developers and visionaries like the Walden family. I do also have the great honor that the Waldens are my neighbors, and I know them very well, and appreciate everything that they have done for this city. As I am recruiting people regularly to Danville, I have lost them to live elsewhere. What that does for my company is really, it's okay, but people are driving an hour to work in a place that I get pings on my LinkedIn profile every day. Can we please work with you? We want to work with you. We need alternative housing. I love the River District. I have Joy Ford on speed dial to have housing for interns that come in. I love the Old West End. I rented for 6 to 7 months before I could figure out where I wanted to live in Danville. And I love being able to walk and go around. And the biggest thing I noticed about Danville is there wasn't anyone out on the streets at night. And I understand that from the past people that were out in the streets that the crime was really high and you were scared, thanks to efforts like Keith Walden knocking down Stewart Street crack houses, is what I've understand. It's now a safer place. But there still weren't any people. There weren't any people. Places are closed. To get the vibrancy, you need developments that is being proposed. I am for this proposal, and I hope you seriously consider it. I do believe the challenges that people have brought up are valid and will be answered by the Walden family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leroy Ganella. I live at 235 West Main Street. There's one home between my house and Stewart Street. And based just on averages, I think there'll be well over 200 houses coming in and out of that street based on the number of units that are in there. And that's going to be a good roadblock area. And that's based on just one family homes. If you have homes with 2 or 3 bedrooms, the number goes up higher. And there's only one entrance, one exit. Where does everybody go? They've got a lot of traffic on West Main Street. So I don't see what alternative is for anyone who wants to get in and out quickly. So it's a poor design, and it should have been designed to have more than one exit for all these units. So I think it's a big problem to deal with that kind of development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Mark Janak. I'm here representing the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research today. I will try not to be too redundant to the points made before me. If you're not aware, the Institute is in the economic transformation business or economic development. It's all to us about creating jobs and improving the community through raising the standard of living. Well, we are not in the housing business. It's something we talk about weekly, if not more often, because of some of the challenges that's faced by the community. We have 2 particular projects where it does directly impact what we're doing. The Institute today is currently doing some training for the Department of Defense. We're in our 2nd cohort of 48 students, and we have obtained housing in the River District to support this current training program. Our goal with funding from the DOD is to ramp that up to train about 1,000 people a year, which will require about 356 apartments for these folks to stay. And this is a 4-month training program, so it lasts a considerable amount of time. And so we alone will have a need for about 350 56 units if the funding continues to flow for the funding. The other aspect is, of course, when we talk about creating jobs, Friday I toured the Aero Farms indoor grow plant facility directly across the street. Tyson's Chicken will be breaking ground very soon. One of the other things we're deeply involved in with both the city and county and the Southern Virginia Regional Alliance, which is the economic development group for the region, is the mega park. I think most of you are vaguely familiar with the Southern Virginia mega site at Berry Hill. In that development, we're not looking for small companies. The companies that we're going after to land in our community typically would be 2,000 jobs and up. And we've had tremendous interest. Many of us feel like it's just a matter of time before our community finally lands a tenant there. The folks that we're talking to, housing is an issue. One of their concerns, in addition to the million other questions they ask, is do you have the housing wherewithal to support an operation that comes in with that many jobs? And so that is a big concern for our community and for those that are involved in the economic development efforts. So while I do support this particular proposal, I do think it's worth saying that the Institute is looking for many more projects like this. I am particularly excited that much of our downtown development, and we'll take all the development we can get, much of that is being done by folks from outside the community, and we welcome their investment. It's exciting for me to see a local entrepreneur and family, the Walden family, that are putting their money in. This is one of the things we talk about in the meetings, is how do we entice local folks or entrepreneurs to invest their money to fill this need that we need. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Okay, I want to summarize just a little bit. We've had several people that are in favor because of the need for housing, and then we've had some people that were against, mainly from the point of traffic and property value decrease have been the main two emphases there. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Julian Bobe. I live at 247 West Main Street, and also I own a couple of properties on West Main as well as Montague Street that are bordering Mr. Walden's property. The main reason I oppose this project relates to increase in population density, and I would like to explain why that is so important. I also lived in very big cities like Tokyo or Osaka. And if I understand population density, I think I can make a point on that. To put it in perspective, I would like to mention that the population density of Danville is about 900 people per square miles. Looking at this project, Mr. Walden owns about 6 acres. That is equivalent to 0.0094 square miles. If we have only 162 people on that street, that is going to bring the population density to about 8,000 people per square mile. That's equivalent to the population density of Chicago. If we increase the population density, if we increase the number of people to 2 people per apartment, and let's assume we have 300 people in that cul-de-sac, we are going to have a population density equal to that of LA. I think my colleague was trying to, my neighbor is trying to make the same point. We all know that the population density drives everything: crime, noise, traffic, and those are all redundant points, I know, but I would like to mention that this is actually the points that we are talking today. To put it differently, the proposed project is positioned to build a pseudo-gated community that has the population density to that of Chicago or LA, with an exit on West Main that will act as a choke point. One of the arguments that is being minimized in this debate is that the proposed project will not reduce the property value. While this point can be argued one way or the other, I can see a couple of scenarios in which the West Main Street residents and others' property value would decrease. For example, if Mr. Walden's project is mismanaged or sold to a private equity firm, the property management might derail. This project would become a benchmark of a failed project that people will stay as far away as possible, therefore dragging the property value down with it. We all know that real estate is prone to market downturns when liquidities on market become scarce due to increase in interest rates and other factors. In a market downturn, the stress of this complex of apartments to perform to a certain cash flow levels will be tremendous, and owners will have no choice but to decrease the rent, and in this way they will attract tenants that might drag down the price per square foot. So this is the biggest argument why the property value will go down, might go down. We just don't know. But we know that black swan events will happen, and in the market downturn, we have to deal with that possibility.
Sir, summarize, please. Your time is up.
I just wanted to say the community leaders of Danville have done a tremendous good job in creating brand equity for a couple of areas in Danville. To name a few, River District, Forest Hill, and West Main are good brand equity for the city. Building undifferentiated projects without regards to the current brand equity leads to erosion of the equity built so far.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Stuart Smith. I have property at 171 Montague Street and also 182 Marshall Terrace. I also lived on Marshall Terrace for about 7 years up until just recently, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood and I have a personal stake in the neighborhood. I am personally in favor of this project, and I suppose the issue about property values is a little bit subjective and only time will tell, but my first thought when I heard about this project was that this would be a boost to the property values where I own a couple of homes. So I think anytime you go from a mostly empty street with previously some fairly dilapidated houses to a brand new construction high-end apartment complex, to me that's only going to make the property values go up. I do understand some of the concerns about traffic, but it seems like the developers are being very thoughtful about that and are going to implement whatever changes they can to help alleviate those issues. So for me, I think the surrounding property values should go up, and I think it would be really nice to have some brand new high-end apartments in that area. So I am in favor. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Shelby Clark, I own 227 Montague Street. That is exactly where the back portion of this project and 3 of the apartment buildings land. I will get all the noise pollution, all the light pollution, and I will not only be boxed in by those apartments, but the ones adjacent, which today makes sense because those apartments were sold in December of this past year of 21 to Empire Investments. So I can tell you that I know those apartments have been listed. There are 1 and 2 bedrooms in those apartment buildings. One was rented at, advertised for $475, and the other one for $525. So if that is any correlation to where we're going, I know these buildings, nothing has really been done to, I guess, aesthetically make them better. They're not horrid, but they could be made better. Also, I'd like to talk about storm drain system. Now, this is something that you would think it's off topic, but it's not. We have had a huge problem. I have reached out to Public Works. I have tried until I'm exhausted, and I just gave up. The storm drain system that resides behind my house and my next door neighbor's house in between Stewart Street and Montague Street is a collapsed storm drain. It's one of those big, huge tops. And our water runoff is really horrible on that street because if you look at the land typography, this is why I'm asking you not to pass this until you have a plan to do some infrastructure for us. The land typography in our neighborhood, everything dumps in the back of us. We are the only street that has a storm drain system. You have very few on Watson, and you've got a top one, I think, at the top of Montague that maybe is on Mount Vernon, and that's it. That is your storm drain. Our basements flood. My basement and my next door neighbor, it constantly stays wet. The water table is not fixed there because the storm system is collapsed. If you ever drive down Stewart Street, you will notice as you crest the top of the hill, it is constantly being patched because once a year, Public Works shows up and they patch. They're out there at 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. Beep, beep, beep. I know what they're doing. Because the nice gentleman, I don't know Ronnie's last name, but it's Ronnie Sr. that lives in the very first house after they've all been cleaned out. He is ever so nice that instead of losing your alignment or your bumper, he goes out and places a traffic cone so you know that it is now collapsed again. So Public Works patches it. They never fix the storm drain system. Same thing happens over with the storm drain caps on our street. If you are to ride down there today, you will see a big orange barrel that exists sitting over top of one of two storm drain tops. This is the second time that this thing has caved in. The first time they showed up, they scoped it, and they filled it with gravel. It directly leads to my neighbor who is 3 doors down, into his backyard who now has a sinkhole, who has a fence around it. When I spoke to Public Works about this, because summer 2 years ago, I ended up having a rat infestation. I'm not talking about mice. I'm talking about rats, the size of my foot. You couldn't even get your hand around their tail. They were overpopulated and coming out during the day in people's yards. You could see them walk down the road. They were nesting in the collapsed storm drain system. Public Works wants to send you to the health department. The health department wants to send you to Public Works. It is a Public Works program because they are living in a collapsed storm drain system. So it has been scoped. It was scoped in front of one of my neighbors. I received a letter saying that it was fine. My neighbor received, well, he actually saw the scope on the collapse system, and it was obvious that it was collapsed.
Ma'am, your
Yes.
time is up, and let me say this to you. First of all, I'm an engineer, and I drove down Stewart Street again today, and I understand that on the lower end, that the water runs down there.
It's not just the
Infrastructure
water.
will have to be put in on Stewart Street to build these apartments. As far as Public Works, we have no control over Public Works, so when this goes to City Council, if you want to come to them and bring that before them, that's the proper place for it. We can't do anything about Public Works. One of the things that we do have in the zoning code is runoff has to be captured, and that is part of this project.
And the runoff being captured, if you're putting something that dense on that amount of land, it's still going to run down, and it's still going to go into my backyard.
Gravity will take water wherever gravity takes water. You are correct, and I'm not arguing that point with you. My point is we are here to look at the zoning, not the Public Works and the drainage system. That is something for another part of the city to do, not us.
Well, this is my last part. At the meeting of February 9th in 2015, the Planning Commission voted 7-1 to recommend the approval of the request is subject to the conditions that the property be limited to 2 buildings and 24 units. Yet here we are again at a huge, dense project for someone looking at a huge return on investment. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? We have 2 more that are showing an interest. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Marie Lou Dunn, and I live at 133 Holbrook Avenue. I've been there 39 years. I recently retired, being a nurse for 50-plus years. And one thing I'm looking at, I don't want to leave Danville, but my house is over 5,000 square feet. I live alone. I don't need that. So what I'm looking for is a nice apartment. I have lived in Astor Arms back in the 70s. Don't want to be there. I want 3 bedrooms. I have a place at Myrtle Beach, 3 bedrooms. I can move in tomorrow. I have a farm with a house in South Halifax County. I could move tomorrow. I don't want to leave Danville. So I am looking for affordable housing and apartment. Thank you.
You're in favor. There was another person back there I saw stood up. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Kevin Brown. I moved to Danville a little over 10 years ago from Northern Virginia.
The primary reason I chose Danville was because it looked like a city with a lot of opportunity, but was not overcrowded. I lived in an area of Northern Virginia where houses pop up like mushrooms, and everyone's right on top of one another. There's always traffic congestion. It could take you anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours to go a couple of exits up I-95. I picked the house that I purchased because it was located in a historic area of Danville. It has a very quiet backyard, given that it's right smack in the middle of the city. My address is 243 West Main Street, which backs right up to where this property is. I'm concerned about the same issues that everyone else has talked about, predominantly noise and aesthetics, on top of the traffic and other issues that people were brought up. When I first moved here and I purchased my house, I purchased it for a certain amount, and within 1 year I saw the property values plummet significantly, where I was upside down on my property. They've now recovered. In fact, they've flourished. I don't want to see that lost. I also don't want, when the time comes, if I do need to leave Danville, I don't want having trouble selling my house because there's a 3-story apartment building at the back of my lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Ms. Gould, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not take the full 5. I know you all have heard plenty up to this point. I just want to make a few summary points. I believe we all recognize there is a tremendous need for quality housing in Danville, and it is imperative that our community get in front of that need before it grows worse, so that we do not miss so many of the opportunities that we believe are headed our way. We want that development to be in the city. We want that growth to be in the city. And taking a first step by approving a project like this, a thoughtful project, is exactly the direction that we need to be heading. This project has been submitted under the city's new planned unit development ordinance. This is an ordinance that is perfectly suited, I would suggest, for a project just like this, because it allows for some creativity, both from the developer and from the city side. And Ms. Evans, I would suggest that your great point about the electric vehicle chargers, that is a perfect item to include in the management agreement that would be established pursuant to this project if you all were to approve it and then City Council were to approve it. There is the opportunity here for cooperation and collaboration from a land use standpoint that is, I think, commendable for what you and City Council have done. Just to address the point that Mr. Brown raised just now, you will see, if you look at the site plan for the project, there is a buffer that is left between the backyards of a number of those properties on West Main and also Town's Funeral Home. There's a buffer between the end of those property lines and where this project would start. The Waldens have every reason to be good neighbors here. There is not just the financial incentive for them to do that, because the investment that they're considering here is substantial, but more important than money, they live here, their families are here, they're choosing to live here, and this is something that they are associating themselves with, and that, in my mind, gives them every reason to not only do this, but do it in the right way and make sure it is maintained in the right way, because it's not just money. This is their community. This is the place that they've chosen to live, that they want to continue to live. The last thing that I would mention to you is that I hope that we can view this project as something other than a zero-sum game, where in order for someone to win, someone else has to lose. I think the thoughtful way that this project has been developed, the thoughtful way that the developers are committed to working with the city to addressing any traffic issues that may be surfaced during the traffic impact analysis, I think that shows this is an opportunity for the entire community to win, for us to meet the need that exists for good quality housing somewhere other than the River District, and for this to be that proverbial rising tide that lifts all boats. So we appreciate the significant amount of time that you've given to this today. We hope that, again, that you will see fit to approve this with the conditions that staff have mentioned. And if there are any questions that we can answer for you that perhaps were raised by some of the citizen comments, we're happy to do that now.
Yeah, Mr. Gould, the pending traffic study, has anything been done other than a traffic count for that area? Is anything?
Nothing official has been done. It sounds like there are some anecdotal traffic counts that have been done by neighbors, but a traffic assessment was not required for submission of the application. But the staff recommendation was to approve this project, and one of the conditions would be that not that the traffic assessment the analysis had to be done before approval would occur, but that the project would be approved and the developers would be responsible for implementing the recommendations in collaboration with the city. So I think right now we're in a position where we can guess, and you have a variety of opinions, but right now until we have that analysis done, we don't know exactly what we're dealing with, but you certainly have the commitment from the applicants to make sure that this is done well and that the study, which would be done in coordination with the city, that the issues that are surfaced by that are addressed to the satisfaction of the city.
So the issues with the primary entrance there in front of Town's Funeral Home, the access from Central Boulevard, and also the egress and ingress from the rear there from Watson, it's shown as being cut off. I'm assuming you might be flexible if it's required that you have egress and ingress from that area?
I think what you'll find is there's a willingness from the developers to do what needs to be done so that this project can move forward and Danville can have the housing that it needs. Certainly, we believe that there are all the reasons that point to having the project laid out in the way that it is, and that is not only that for folks who are walking to work, that they have that easy and quick access to West Main Street, but we also understand that VDOT standards counsel against having an access point onto Central Boulevard, that the intention is to have limited access there so Central Boulevard traffic can continue to move at the pace with which we're all accustomed. But I think what we are committed to is following what the professional guidance tells us.
You're committed to the project regardless of adhering to whatever they decide in the study, right?
Proceeding kind of no matter what, that is above my pay grade, and that's something that I would have to defer to my client on. But I think as long as there are reasonable concessions, they are committed to moving forward.
Any plans to purchase the remainder of Stewart Street, those parcels, so that it would go all the way through rather than a cul-de-sac?
No, ma'am, there are no plans for that at this time. It is to go ahead and create that cul-de-sac so you would have Stewart split there. And interestingly, a number of the neighbors on the southern side of Stewart have indicated that they are not opposed through the feedback that they've given to the city. So many of them are on board with this and do not have an objection to the street being split in that way.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gould. I close the public hearing. Questions of staff? Let me say this. Article 17, what that does is it allows someone to submit a project, and they have to enter into an agreement with the city if it is approved, and there are things within the city code that they have to meet. They have to meet all of the setback requirements. They have to meet drainage. They have to put in streets that are city-approved streets. In other words, that they would be the same size as streets in the rest of the city for any other development. And they have to enter into an agreement under Article 17, which is what this is under, that they will do those things. And of course, everything has to meet building code, and they have to have permits for all of it from all of the interested parts of the city, including working on the drainage for what they're building on. So I just want you to know that. Secondly, let me say to each of you, we are a commission that looks at the zoning code and decides whether or not this is allowed within the zoning code, and hears what you have to say, and we are allowed to put conditions in that would alleviate some of the problems that you have brought up. There is a traffic study going to be involved. You can't put a stoplight in without a traffic study. It's a state law as to where you can put a traffic light unless the city wants to pay all of the cost, which I doubt that they want to do. But all of these things will again be heard by City Council at their meeting on the, I have to look and see, April 5th. And at that time, they are the approving authority. We are not the approving authority. We can put conditions on. We have conditions that are already in here. City Council can take those conditions out or add any conditions that they feel are necessary that we did not put in. So this is not the final approving authority. We are only making a recommendation to the city when we make our recommendation today. Ms. Bolton.
I'd move we recommend approval of special use permit application PLSUP 2021-422 with conditions as stated.
Second, Mr. Dotson. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Ms. Evans? Mr. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Kahn?
Yes.
And Mr. Patrick?
Yes.
Third item on our agenda today is rezoning application PZ 22-31 initiated by the Planning Director, establish skill games as defined by Virginia Code as adult-oriented uses and move standards for adult entertainment out of the zoning ordinance section 3QI and into a new section 2, general regulation Z, adult-oriented uses with location restrictions to avoid secondary effects. Staff report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make this fairly brief. As you're all aware, the skill game operations have well enveloped the city of Danville and honestly most of the places I've seen in central Piedmont since I've been around visiting different parts of South Central Virginia. So given their interest and in the community, we decided to try to take an approach through zoning that rather than continuing to classify skill games as we have as commercial recreation, that assign rules based on why we're concerned about them. And the concerns we have are that there could be negative impacts like objectionable characteristics, how they affect adjacent properties with traffic, different hours, the potential for crime, just like the other adult uses we regulate in our zoning code now, like adult bookstores, adult cabarets, that sort of thing. So what we've done is we've taken that state definition of skill games that is now provided in state law, and we've lumped that in with with the adult bookstore, the adult cabaret, and adult theater. And rather than hiding them in the zoning ordinance under one zoning district, we're moving them front and center to a section of general regulations, subsection Z, that really focuses on keeping them all separate to avoid those secondary effects that I talked about. I've reviewed this with Ryan Dodson in our office. We believe it's a very sound approach. Currently, we're proposing a list of zoning districts where any such skill game special use application would have to be separate from. These are all of the zoning districts that allow single-family residential or multiple-family residential dwellings and the casino district would require separation. They would have to be separate from any other adult-oriented use. So if one skill game application were to come in, it would have to be separate from an adult bookstore application that was established, vice versa. They also could not be within 1,000 feet of any school, child care center, or family day home. This distance is considered, and it's equal to the state requirements for cannabis dispensaries that are currently going on the books as we've discussed here. So it's the exact same distance, exact same things from those uses. Additionally, we would only allow adult-oriented uses. They would stay only allowable in the industrial manufacturing zoning district. We would include a requirement that if something were granted a special use permit and the operations were to cease for 90 or more days, it would have to apply for a new special use permit. We would require the special use permits to be reviewed annually so that if there are problems, the city can intervene. It's not a perpetual forever special use permit. And lastly, if an adult-oriented use owner or operator or property owner becomes associated with illegal activities about other adult uses in the city, we could immediately intervene and revoke a special use permit if they had been granted. So if they're operating something illegal somewhere else and violating the laws, that we can step in and force them to cease and desist or revoke their permit. So that's what these changes would do. So we're proposing a 1,000-foot buffer. There's a map included in your packet. There's actually 4 green areas. There's one out West Main. There's one area around Goodyear Boulevard that would be allowable. There's one area off Kentuck Road. And there's a very small area close to the bypass that has a piece of M1 zoning as you're coming through the city. And those are the areas of the city that would be eligible to apply for the special use permit under these rules.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Open the public hearing if anyone wishes to speak on this item. Close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have questions of staff on this?
Yeah, I've got a question. On the map that we're looking at, the yellow and the blue, they would not be permitted. Is that correct?
Correct. The yellow dots are speaking on mute, I apologize. And the blue zoning districts are all of the excluded zoning districts that allow residential dwellings and the casino entertainment district.
How does that affect businesses that already have these skill games in?
If they are legally established, then they remain legal non-conforming. They can continue to operate.
So we're adding a zoning classification. So why would anybody have to apply for a special use? If it's zoned for that, why the need for the special use?
It's not going to be a new zoning classification. It's just a new set of standards for specific special use permits. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just a new section in the code.
Mr. Plashinsky, we've got a real serious problem with the number of these businesses that are operating illegally in this town. Yeah?
Yes, sir. And we have a list, and we're awaiting a 30-day countdown on which is the state law requirement we have to provide them at this point to either appeal our decision that they're acting illegally or cease operations. So once that 30-day timer ticks all the way down to 0, we can move forward with enforcement. You will see within the next month or two some zoning ordinance changes coming forward on enforcement. So just be aware that we're reviewing everything we can, and it's not just tied to skill games, but just We've updated our operations system in inspections and code enforcement to make our lives easier, and we're going to try to amend the code within state law to make sure that we're using the enforcement tools available to the city in a consistent and efficient way. And they're very clear. We're not out to try to trick business owners or residents. We just want everybody to play by the rules, and if there's an issue, to talk to us and see what we can resolve.
I have a question, Mr. Whitfield. Will this have any effect with the court case we talked about earlier in Greensville County?
Well, it could. It won't have any effect on that case, but if that case ends up upholding the state law, then what we will have done is just made it won't enable anybody to open up a skilled game place in one of these zoning districts. So it kind of plays with that. This is in preparation for a situation where the court might overrule and state that the current skill game legislation is illegal, that would allow them to do that. So that's the way that plays.
Okay, thank you.
What does that do, Clark, as far as the special use permit we recommended to council at our last meeting? Does that just go away because that's not going to be in an approved area?
No, since council tabled that or postponed that action really until to see what happens. May 18th is the day in Greenville County that the circuit court's supposed to rule on the skill game. So they have postponed it until after that.
Mr. Attorney, didn't they remand that to us?
Actually, that's right. They didn't
postpone it. They remanded it to us.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison. They have remanded it to you. So, but anyway, if in fact that is approved all the way up and skill game is made legal again through either legislative action or through court action, then that project would move forward. It would move forward right where it is, assuming it's approved by the council. So because they applied prior to this taking effect, they would not be constrained by this, and theirs would they would be a legal non-conforming use in the area that they were talking about out on Riverside Drive.
Right.
Motion if there's no more questions.
Would move it. I'm not sure how to state it. I would recommend that we recommend approval of these zoning amendments to the code as submitted.
Second.
Second by Ms. Evans. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Dotson?
Yes.
Ms. Evans? Mr. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Khan?
Yes.
And Mr. Petrick?
Yes.
Just for clarification for the minutes, I'm assuming your motion was an ordinance amending Chapter 41 entitled Zoning Ordinance of the Code of the City of Danville, Virginia, establishing skill games as defined by Virginia Code as adult-oriented uses and move standards for adult entertainment out of the zoning ordinance section 3QI and into the new zoning section 2 General Regulation Z, adult-oriented uses with local restrictions to avoid secondary effects.
Exactly what I said.
That's what I thought you said.
Thank you for clarifying what he said. Mr. Plachinsky, this is your time.
I'd like to just provide a short verbal update. Obviously, we've had a lot going on in planning and zoning and a lot of good things happening. I would like you to know that the comprehensive plan consultants have submitted a existing conditions report and proposed scope for the comprehensive plan. I'd also like to inform the commission that through a companion potential grant application and funding resource, we may be able to get a lot of money to do a lot more things and substantially increase the project budget. The timing is such that it makes sense, in my opinion, to try to do both the comprehensive plan and a citywide resiliency plan at the same time. rather than finishing one before we start the other, or even trying to do them concurrently. So if we meld them together, we may be able to get a very significant amount of state resources to help us pay for it at a very low match, at a 10% match to the city. So what this funding resource would also do is include processes for floodplain management and stormwater quality and quantity measures and green infrastructure. It's pretty exciting, and it's. I'll provide details in an updated memo with the grant application summary at a subsequent meeting. But the grant closes at the end of March, so the timing's right. We could be, adding several $100,000 more funding into the project. So that's the scale of the change that could happen. We've also worked with our partners over at the Danville Regional Foundation about their participation in the comprehensive plan, and we've had some really great conversations. We haven't quite figured out what that looks like yet, but it would be great to have them on board because there really is a community comprehensive plan, and it matches up not just within the city of Danville, but it affects a lot of people around us. We've had good conversations with them. And with that, like I said, we are working on code enforcement right now. You'll see not only the work that we've done in trying to follow up on zoning violations, but also taking an internal look and seeing how we can do that better with the resources we have. And I'm pretty encouraged by the work that's going on. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Where do we stand on the signs?
We're working on that. I think we've got some progress, and we should have something pretty soon.
And do we have anything for next month?
Yes, you will have probably some zoning ordinance amendments, and at the very least, the remanded application for the Skill Games Arcade on 58 West.
Thank you.
One question. Are there any plans to replace Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Yes, I believe that position's been advertised for, and that the City Council Committee on Appointments and Governance will be reviewing any applications that come up.
I talked with Ms. Massey before I came into this meeting, and she says that we're probably 30 to 60 days away from having somebody to replace him, but it's going on. It's moving forward.
Actually have advertising requirement lengths in order to, before we can fill a spot, to receive applications, so we can't just automatically fill a spot.
I think she has some applications already in.
I believe there's at least more than one. So
I think she said she had 2, but she's expecting others. So correspondence, there's none that I know of.
Correct.
Approval of the minutes from our February 7th. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're adjourned.